This is the Modern Longeviterian. My name is Scott Stanfield. Welcome to episode 98. And you know what else I am? I'm also the restaurant GM coach. And I was that before I was, well, I don't know which one came first, Modern Longeviterian or restaurant GM coach. But today we're going to, today's topic is your hospitality coach with Žana Usher, right? It's going to be an amazing show. We're going to step into hospitality, step into the restaurant world. That has shaped me and molded me so much in my life. And so I'm excited to step into that. So thank you for watching on Spirituality Gone Wild. Thank you for also watching on LinkedIn. But before we get into the interview, I want to talk about this here. Harvard Business Review posted on Instagram just probably about last month, about a month ago, about 85% of their survey respondents said their general well-being has declined since the start of COVID-19. 50% of those respondents said they've had a decline in their mental health. Now, Žana and I talked, we had a discovery call. We also talked for probably about 20 minutes before this episode today, and we talked about the mental health and self-care of a restaurant manager and how important that is. Bruce Lee said, and I love this quote, "The body follows the mind." And we both have meditated this morning. I've done some breathing exercises. I did 42 push-ups without breathing, and you know what? And also another self-care for me is a little cup of Joe. And sorry for that pause there. But anyway, love coffee and those things. The more I do this, the more coaching clients I have, the more people I spend time talking to and listening to, I realize how important mindset is and how important self-care is, how important our health is. And it all starts with our mental health and our self-care. So I just want to say, if you're interested in some coaching, whether you're a restaurant general manager, chef, an aspiring manager, or someone who's looking to take your health to the next level, just go to modernlongeviterian.com/coaching and set up a free discovery call. Well, I was going to sit here. I was going to read her interview and all that. I mean, her bio and all these things. But you know what? I'm going to let Žana tell her own story. And we're going to get here and just go. Žana, zdhospitality.com. Welcome to, I don't know, It's My Friday or the Restaurant GM Coach, Modern Longeviterian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you so very much for having me on your show. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, it's amazing. And a little sidebar, right, is actually, gosh, it was about 2 years. We almost worked together. I actually interviewed at one of the restaurants that you were a manager at, right?
I know.
And at the time, Fig and Olive, right? And at the time, I had not had any California experience, so they passed on me, right? So we ended up meeting anyway, right, through LinkedIn, right? And
yes,
and now here we are. So I love your story, and I love your background and all those things. So and you were born into a hospitality family, which is what I love hearing that. So let's tell the story about, growing up, your family, and then how you got into the restaurant business and how you ended up in LA, right?
Sure. So yes, I was born and raised in Berlin, Germany. And it's true. I was born really into a true hospitality family. My dad was a well-known chef in Berlin in a somewhat upscale restaurant. And my mom, she used to manage a housekeeping team in a smaller hotel as well in Berlin. So, growing up, it was almost like if I wasn't at the hotel, I was at the restaurant. And I mean, I haven't even realized that because for me, that was so normal. The environment of restaurants and hotels were so normal for me. It was almost like if we're not home, we're there. And so it was almost somewhat kind of clear from the beginning that that's something that I really wanted to do or going to do without even thinking about that also. So it wasn't really like growing up thinking, what is it that I want to be when I grow up? It was almost like, yeah, something in the hospitality industry for sure.
Right, right.
So so that's kind of like how all of that really started. And then, my very first job was at Burger King, and I was 14, and when I was only allowed to work on the weekends, and I was cleaning the dining room. And then later I evolved to be a cashier, and I absolutely loved it. Like I was
Mm.
obsessed with the fast paced, with the multitasking, with the different type of energies that guests have and moods that they bring with them, and the kids that are loud or spilling stuff, and like orders that go wrong. And I was immediately hooked in that energy, in that really environment. And
Mhm.
yeah, and then I started to evolve. I did my apprentice. I did a three year kind of like school for becoming or earning my bachelor's degree. It was a huge test at the end, and I went through, I think, 28 departments at the hotel where I did this apprentice. And then, I started to just travel. And I took my passion, being able to work in the hospitality industry. I took it and I combined it with my love for traveling. And it was really interesting because sometimes when I would have interviews for specific positions, um, the GMs or the general managers or the HR people, they would kind of look at me sideways at times and really kind of like ask me, so is something wrong with you, or why are you not able to keep a job? And it's like, listen, it's I'm not really not able to keep a job, but I just love traveling so much that why would I want to stay in one place forever? Like I
Mm.
rather jump from hotel or restaurant and from city to country and just
Right.
explore traveling and really have the privilege of working at the industry, because there's everywhere hotels, there's everywhere restaurants. And that's really how everything got started, with me traveling and obviously earning more degrees, earning more experiences, earning more privileges of working with fantastic leaders and fantastic people and amazing teams. And of course, having a few downfalls too. I worked for a lot of people that were not so appreciative of my work and my energy that I brought to the table. They kind of maybe saw me as a little bit disturbing in their team because I always had something to say. I am that girl. I would be that girl back in the days that always had something to say. Like, well, why don't
Mm.
we do it this way? And wouldn't you think it's better that way? And did you thought of this way? And how about this idea? And how about that idea? And people obviously be a little bit irritated because it's like, who are you? Like, you're just an employee here, and why do you feel the need to voice all those opinions? And I guess it rubbed a few people the wrong way, but I don't know. I just have it in me. It's literally my first love.
Mm.
Literally, like I'm just it's my absolute passion to work in the industry and just see people thrive too, like just really be amazing. And then, staff aspect is one aspect, but then just seeing guests coming from maybe a long face, and then you interact with them and then they walk out just having a different mood, or just being in a different mood, is like, that to me kept me going all these years. That I had all the time amazing guests that would request to sit in my section, or request for me to be at the restaurant or a hotel, or gave me little private gifts and phone calls and emails. And I mean, that's the stuff that really kept me going. And I really found out then that I do have a gift for transforming an environment and transforming people's thinking about specific things, because my energy and theirs is just mashing nicely, where you can be honest but you can also be firm, and I think it's a good mix. So yeah. And then, years later, I got offered to come to America, and of course, it didn't take me very long to accept. And I landed in Florida and
Mm.
worked at a really beautiful country club, and then a lot of stuff just evolved from there. And
Right.
then yeah, and then traveled through Florida, went to Canada, Vancouver in between, went back to Germany, went back to Hungary for a little bit, landed in LA, went back to Germany. Like, I mean, it was a whole lot of traveling and different opportunities here and different opportunities there. And then that's basically how everything sort of happened. But my home base is now LA. So,
Right, right. It's a shame we didn't meet when I was working in Santa Monica, right? We would have been able to share some stories there for sure, right? But
absolutely.
right. So interesting thing, right? I know that I have in my day rubbed people the wrong way as
Mm-hmm.
well. But I'm curious to see what your advice would be to someone who's managing someone like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who always has an idea, always is super
Mm-hmm.
energetic, has the passion
Mm-hmm.
for the industry. Because, a lot of times restaurant GMs, a lot of times managers forget that the best ideas come from the team, right? They think that they're in charge. They think that they are supposed to have all the answers. They
Right.
think they need to be in control, right? Those type of things. So super interesting now that you're a hospitality coach, right? B, have seen what you've seen, you
Mm-hmm.
know, how does someone as a chef or a supervisor, right, who may not have experience, right,
Right.
with managing people from different parts of the world, those type of things, handle someone with your energy and passion? How do they harness that and get it going in the right direction?
What a great question. I would really say so. I completely agree with what you said. So you really have to understand that the more you are in tune with your team as a leader, the more you're going to be successful.
Mm,
And so I agree with leaders having to know it all because otherwise they shouldn't be leaders, right? So they have to have a specific type of knowledge that their staff cannot have because they just haven't gotten there in life yet to either learn it or experience it. So yes, therefore I do believe leaders and managers and CEOs and people that are leading a team, they should have some core knowledge that nobody else has. But the difference to me is that when you allow yourself when you are the person with this knowledge to share that knowledge with your team, you're
mhm,
making such a big impact. And this is to answer your question, how to include that is just let them be using their brain and
mm,
incorporate their brain. It's always better if two brains, three brains, four brains, 10 brains collaborate together and come up with something fantastic, which does not mean that all the ideas will or have to be implemented because every restaurant and every hotel has their core rules, and that's
right.
fine. But if you have people that are very energetic and they really love what they do and they want to be so badly involved, let them. Let them. Not because you're taking their ideas and you using them, but have meetings with them. Let them speak. Let them share their ideas. Incorporate some of their ideas because, listen, I'm a mom and I'm telling you honestly, I've learned so much from my 3.5-year-old son. He taught me already so much that I truly believe grown people can teach other grown people so much more. Iron sharpens iron, right?
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
let's all really use our knowledge that we have and create something fantastic. And yeah, absolutely. If you're the leader, please step up to the plate. Please be there for your team when they are really needing you and when you really need to display your leadership. Please do that at all the time. But don't be so cocky and thinking because you are the owner, because you are the CEO, because you are the manager, that you know it all, because you don't know it all. Nobody
Right.
knows it all. We all need each other. And without your team, what can you do? Can you
Mhm.
do the dishwashing at the same time? Like you cook the meal, like you do the food running, like you're bussing the tables, like you're serving the tables? No, you can't do it all. So you need your team, right? And
Mhm.
isn't it so much more greater if your team members have fantastic ideas that you can incorporate in your cycle of healthy work environment? That's fantastic. That's so much better instead of having team members that are just like, I don't
Yep.
know. I don't care. I don't know. Okay, you tell me to go left, I go left. Okay, and that's fine too because listen, those people are very valuable as well. Yeah, but
Right.
yeah, in corporate, have staff meetings, let them speak, let them voice their opinion. But it's very difficult to create that because what I have seen over the course of my entire career is that staff teams are very prohibited to opening up of what it is that they really feel is not okay at their job. Because they're either afraid that they're going to lose their job, they're afraid that the manager then is going to have a red eye on them, like a not so good
Right.
view of them, or they're afraid that other team members might think like, well, you just stepped in our team and you have all these suggestions, like, who are you, and then the jealousy stuff would kick in. So it's a variation of a few things where you can eliminate that as a great leader. As a great leader, this is your job to eliminate that type of hostility and that type of negativity in your environment by just speaking honestly and openly to your team.
Right.
I would even suggest on monthly basis. Have a staff meeting once a month. Call a staff meeting once a month. Do certain things with your staff, like incorporate them, show them appreciation. Like, please remember everybody's name in your staff.
Right.
Maybe try to remember even, hey, it's their birthday. Oh, it's their anniversary. Oh, they just had a child, or, something. I'm not saying to be buddy and go for dinners and cocktails every night after shift. No, because there has to be, in my opinion, a fine line between professional work and privacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is great to build good, solid, human relationship between staff and management, because the more they trust you, the more they will do an extra mile for you. Believe me, because I'm one of those people, and I know there's so many people more out there than I do that really love what they do. Because I used to love being a server, I used to love being a manager. That's like, I love doing that. But just a simple thank you, or when I did bring in a bunch of revenue and I exceeded the goal of revenue for the week, it would have been nice to receive maybe a $10 gift card, from Starbucks. Like, nothing major, but like just little details to just really show, hey, thank you that you're here. Thank you that you're here at work, because if you wouldn't be here, I don't know what we would do, right?
Right. Exactly. Right. And
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing. You reminded me of two different books, right? That one is called Rookie Smarts. I don't remember the author of the book, where basically, I think I've been in this, I didn't mention this earlier on air, but I mentioned this to you early offline. Yesterday was 1 year anniversary since I've been furloughed, right? There's a lot of things that have happened. The birth of the Modern Longevitarian website, which you can go to by going to strongforlonger.com. I wrote a book, about sleep, that you can download for free on the website. This is episode number 98 of live episodes. There's 10 different podcasts on top of that. So there's 108, conversations about living life as a modern longevitarian attached to leadership. So all those things have happened during that time, but my point being is this, so that first one is Rookie Smarts. At some point in my 28-year period, I had to be retaught, because I've learned about this book and Rookie Smarts, that there are people who look at your restaurant, your hotel, your business as, we get it. Liz Wiseman is the author, right? So look, this is Mark Esley. Thank you very much for tuning in, right, and telling us that. But basically, there's people who come in that may actually never have worked in the restaurant business, or never worked in your restaurant. They could look at things with a fresh set of eyes and give you a solution to that. The other book, and I actually have interviewed the author to this book, is called, it's right here, Turn the Ship Around. You can't see it because it's still a bit too low. But a retired nuclear sub captain from the Navy, David Marquet. And this has been, Turn the Ship Around has been touted as one of the top business books of all time. And one of the top 10 books of leadership books. And he actually talks about intent-based leadership, where there's a problem, right? Or somebody comes to you with a question, and you actually can say, instead of just being the leader that actually has all the answers, you can say, what do you think we should do? Or what you intend to do? Or you can really kind of like draw this information out of them by asking questions versus go, okay, they didn't like the way their steak was cooked. I'm going to go talk to the table. I took care of it. I did these type of things. You can then, tap into what the knowledge base of your team, because you're pushing authority to where the information is, right?
Right.
As a leader, you don't always have all the information, right? With
Right.
that, you
Right.
know,
And not
so there's
only
really,
that, I'm sorry, but you also
go ahead.
then, if you share the knowledge that you carry within you in training your people, telling them what you know, you are helping them to create unity and you're helping them to function all the same way. So every bartender will do this drink the very same way, like the bartender that we works on Thursdays.
Hmm.
Every waitress, every cocktail waitress will know about everything that is happening, just like the girl that you had 3 weeks ago. And why? Because that's how you create something that nobody else has. Because the last thing that customers or guests really want is to come to a place and they had a fantastic meal and they had this amazing server, right? And this great cocktail. And then they come back with all this excitement of like, we gotta come here because this is so fantastic. And then they get there, and then there's somebody that has no idea about the menu, that doesn't even know half of the stuff that goes inside that cocktail because you went there 3 weeks ago. You don't remember the name. You just remember it tasted like this and this, and the color was this and that. And then your
Right.
person that is really helping you, serving you that evening, should be able to kind of like pick up and say, oh, I think this is this and this because I know my ingredients. You see, I
Right.
know my product knowledge. Me as the person, I know my product knowledge, and I somewhat think that this is it, but let me show you. Could it be this or could it be that? Yeah, this is it. Done. But if they don't, if they're not being trained like that, because people might be afraid that if they share now their GM and their manager knowledge with them because they want to be the only one thinking and knowing it all, then you are kind of like stopping a blessing from this whole thing to be something so amazing that it actually could be.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And, and what you're really talking about is, and the reason that David Marquet wrote the book wasn't because he took the nuclear sub from worst to first in the fleet. There's
Mm-hmm.
15 executive officers on a nuclear sub, and traditionally, by percentage, about 5 of those will become a captain. Right, very small amount, minority amount.
Right,
But of his 14, 10 of them became captains. Right, so
right.
double the amount because he taught them how to become leaders and think like leaders. So what happens is this whole process about making the cocktails the same and things like that, and training your staff. Because what you underlined a lot of this stuff with training and consistency, and I'm thinking of like,
Mm-hmm.
or like, we could have like, okay, today we're making this cocktail and this because we want to make sure it's made to spec and tastes right, looks right, the presentation,
Right,
and the kitchen's doing their taste plate, right, and they're
right,
rotating through the whole menu and doing those type of things. We're making sure that every team member knows how that's supposed to look, and every team member knows
right.
how it's supposed to taste, and every team member is supposed to know how to make all those things and do that. And
Mm-hmm.
so many different things. We've got so many comments come in. I want to recognize some people who are watching the show real quick that we kind of skipped over. Steve Weber, my friend with the American Gumption Morning Show. Steve actually worked for Bubba Gump Shrimp Company for 15 years because he is
Cool.
Forrest Gump, American Gumption Morning Show. He looks like Tom Hanks and dressed up like Forrest Gump for
Yeah,
15
I
years.
can see the picture a little bit. That's
Yes,
very true. Yeah.
exactly. And so he teaches organizational change and life from the life lessons of the movie Forrest Gump. I encourage you to watch his show. I've been on his show 3 times,
That's
and he was
amazing.
on the Restaurant General Manager podcast. You can find that
Cool.
wherever you get your podcast, episode number 2, right? So super cool about the life lessons of that. And then Ed Zwan, Hassan, thank you for watching. He says, hi, thank you for watching the show. And then Adnan is also watching on LinkedIn. Team building, which is where we were in the beginning of the show. He made this comment, probably, let's see, about 6 or 7 minutes ago. So there we there. And then, of course, Mark has been chiming in with a couple things. We gave us Liz Wiseman, the author. And then
Right.
also he says, let's see what else we got here. I always teach what you're saying. So it's like Mark's on the same page.
Great.
And then he said,
Fantastic.
bartender on Monday should make it the same way the bartender on Friday.
Agreed.
Exactly. Right. And that's a
Agreed.
struggle, right? That totally is a
Yeah.
struggle, right?
Yeah,
I've
but I
worked at
really, I
places.
really don't know. I really don't know why that's such a struggle. Because to me, it seems so logical to also, I'm a huge fan of cross trainings too. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm a huge fan of cross training my staff because, hey, why do I think, or why would I think that it would not be beneficial at all if my host knows all the amazing cocktails or wines by the glass? I think that's a huge advantage if my hostess knows that. You know why? Because guess
Right,
what? When it's busy, she can take orders on the phone and she
right,
can
right,
make great suggestions to the guest on the phone or the guests that just step in into the restaurant. You see,
right,
but if it's just, and no offense, I love when hostesses are very beautiful women, and I love that, but it's not, in a sense, that's not what this is about. It's not about having a pretty girl standing there and seating people. The hostess job is so much more detailed that a lot of people really overlook her job. She is, in a sense, besides the restaurant manager and the GM, the brains of the operation. Because
right,
when it's very busy in a restaurant, she got to keep up with how many person did she seat in what section? Is she being fair with the head counts towards the waiters? Because that can cause commotion too. When waiters feel like, oh, I already had like 10 tables and this person had only three, or this and the other. So the hostess is such a valuable part of the whole operation that I see that all the time. And I love cross training staff because it's
right,
great if everybody has the same knowledge about the restaurant, about the products, about whatever is around us. Like, where's the nearest ATM? Where is the zoo here? We've never been in the city. What's going on? Where is the club? Where is this? It's great if your people know that, because it just shows that you're involved with wanting to please your guests in anything.
right,
And
right,
so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of cross trainings,
right.
and I always put that out there to people, that just please consider that, because it's a great thing. You're not losing anything. It might take you a little longer to train your people, and you might maybe have to invest a little more time, but it will pay off.
Right, right.
Mhm.
It's so important. Talked about the host stand, right? And a lot of people do hire pretty faces to go there, in
Right.
that position, right? And that could be, I've had
That's
some,
great.
I've had some entry level, gentlemen wanting to, be work at the host stand as well, right? And then work into a position as a, as a server assistant or a bar back, and,
Sure.
those type of things to
Sure.
get in the, and worked into that. So it doesn't always have to be a female, right? And especially in our
Right.
new all inclusive, world that we live in, right? But I will
Totally.
say this. This is what I say about the skills of a host, right? I think that they need to have the emotional intelligence of a monk, right? I think they need to be cool, calm, and collected. I think they need to have mad Tetris skills, right? I mean, mad, like being able to fit those things in. And they also have to, like, you're right. They need to know, like, where the closest ATM is, where the closest public bathroom is. They need to know
Mhm.
the menu to take orders off the line. They know more about a restaurant than any probably individualized position, skilled position, because
Right.
they know all those different things. Where, for instance, like a server may know the wines by the glass and know the menu really good, but they may not know where the closest ATM is or the closest public bathroom is, right?
Hmm.
They may not know the reservation policy, those type of
Right.
things. They're doing that. And it's funny, I talk about restaurants as being like a football team, right? And as much as the servers think they're the star quarterback, they're really just a wide receiver. The quarterback is the host stand, right? Because the guest is this, fictional ball coming in. You're like, what are you going to do with the ball? Right.
First impression.
Right. Well, and Mark put this in there. Host is equals the director of first impressions.
Correct.
Right.
I just said it. First impression.
Right. Right.
Absolutely correct.
Exactly.
Because that is exactly what our guests, this is exactly what our guests are seeing when they're entering,
Right.
or when they're calling us on the phone.
Right.
That's like, you gotta have a system down how your people are even answering the phone.
Right.
Like, and I'm not saying like standard stuff, welcome to A, B, and C, and how can we help you? I'm not, nothing like that. I'm saying, like, understand in what place you're working. Like, know the department, know the product that you're trying to sell. And that's for any business. It doesn't have to be necessarily hospitality. It could be any business where people or employees interact with guests or customers. You
Right.
got to know your product. Like you got to know when are we opening? When are we closing? What is this? What is that? Like what flavors of candles do we have? If you have a candle shop, like what,
Yeah.
what smells of
Yeah.
candles do we have? Are they organic? Are they not? Like all those, all those little details are so imperative for
Right.
our people to know in the industry. And that's exactly where I took it up myself to really come in and make it a point of really training exactly that. Like, I'm not focused on your social media. I will not come in and build a website for you. I will not come in and, find you how to where you can get the cheapest, machines for your staff or something. I will come in and train your staff. I
Mm.
will come in and really focus on front of the house and back of the house staff, where we really teach these things that we're just talking about right now, how to really interact with guests and what is imperative, what is not imperative, what are the do's, what are the don'ts. If you touch your face, it's already against the hygienic. Please go wash your hands. But so many people don't know. You see, they're like doing this and then they write an order, or, the worst thing is when they lick their finger to kind of like flip the page from their little block. Like it's little details like that that make a huge difference, or
Hmm.
how you talk to your guests, how you greet them, how you involve with them, how you upsell. Like, how do you upsell? How do you
Right.
even talk about wine if you have no idea about wine? Like, if you're literally just a person that is just trying to make a quick paycheck, which is great. Hospitality is an amazing, amazing industry for that. But
Hmm.
please understand, like, people know when you don't have an idea, and people know when you're being fake.
Right. Right. They
People will
do.
pick up on that, you know?
Absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
better to say, this is my first job, or this is my first week in this place. Like, please bear with me. I don't know it all yet, but I'm happy to find everything out for you. I'm happy to make you a great time. People will accept that so much more, that honesty, instead of you trying to go all out and, in a sense, do it all wrong. Then just
Hmm.
be honest, just be really honest, you know?
Right. Exactly, right, and that's the thing, right? Because not every restaurant that somebody's gonna work at has the best training program, right?
Right,
You know,
right,
it's like, and not every detail's on the menu, right? So somebody may
right.
say, "Hey, what sauce is this with these potato skins?" And as a server, you may not know the answer to that, and you go look at the menu and there's no sauce listed, and then you have
Right.
to go, like, you gotta go talk to somebody, and if your kitchen speaks, more Spanish than they do English, your Spanish has got to be on point, or you got to like find somebody who can translate or those type of things,
Something.
right?
Mm-hmm.
All those things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I've worked in both. I've worked in restaurants where, as a GM, I walk in, they hand me a set of keys, and they hand me a manager card and go, "Hey, go figure it out. We'll see you next week,"
Right.
right? You know. And I've worked in other places where you have 5-week training programs where you work every
Right.
position in 5 weeks, or
Right.
I've had another one that was an 11-week training program where I spent 4 weeks in the kitchen and 7 weeks in front of the house, right? And
Right.
as the GM, and I've done both, right? And it's really an interesting thing about how all that works. So I
Right.
want to transition. Well, Mark's got a couple more things, right? Let's clear this up with Mark, and then we'll transition to a couple more things. He said this treating employees fairly in the workplace is not just a moral responsibility. It's also necessary to ensure maximum company growth. When an employee
Mhm.
is treated unfairly, it results in decreased employee morale. Low
Right.
morale results in decreased employee productivity.
And
100%.
that
I
and
agree.
you know what? And you know what, Mark? Thank you so much for that. But you know what? A point to that, that again results into a lot of turnover in your place.
Mm-hmm.
So if we all understand that we all have specific responsibilities in our roles. So if the leader has the responsibility of training their staff, understanding their staff, appreciating the staff, acknowledging the staff, and making it a point of not just delegating, oh, we have a new girl. Okay, so and so, can you train her for today? And I'll be in the back office. No, you're the manager, you're supposed to know it all. Then you help to train this person and let your other waiters and your other team members do what they need to do, because now we're one man down and we still got a business to run. So
Mm-hmm.
putting that pressure on something, some other team members, to me personally, it's a little bit unfair, because they still have their stuff to do. It's not like that, they're off for the day and they're just playing trainer. No, they're still going to have to do what they need to do. And so when we each take responsibility in our parts, being fair with each other, on coworkers too. When a new person comes in, embrace them. Like, it's great that you have all this knowledge. Just share it with them. What do you have to lose? You just gain an extra hands of help.
Right.
Just share what you need with them. They're gladly there to help you. At least I always had this attitude. I was always glad to help, But if we all pull our responsibilities, our turnover will decrease, because why would people want to leave? They get the training that they need. They get they get treated fairly. I'm sorry, and now when somebody like me and my company would come in, they know how to make more money for themselves by pumping up their check. And that again results in more money for the owner, more revenue for everybody. So why would I leave this amazing workplace where I make enough money for me? I have a great, healthy environment, have fantastic staff members around me, and my manager is amazing.
Right.
Why would I leave?
Right.
I wouldn't want to leave. And, I understand there's so much more detail to everything that we speak about, but that's kind of like the overall why I decided I wanted to make a difference in the world of hospitality, because everything me and you speak about, I don't care if you've never put a foot into the restaurant or a hotel. You can teach this if you want to. You can learn. Anybody can learn anything if they want to. And yeah, but yeah, that comment was great. Thanks, Mark, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark.
And so Žana, I want to say thank you for making that connection to turnover. And most people don't understand the financial impact of high turnover. I actually did a podcast. I interviewed from Cornell University, Professor Bruce Tracy. He was a co-author on a study back in 2005 and 2006 on the cost of turnover in hospitality. And they did use the hotel industry as this, but it's relatively the same, right? And the average cost with inflation, and I did the math up to 2019 because it was just prior to COVID when I did this interview with him. The average employee, not when you take the GM, recruiting fees and all that other type of stuff, right down to, your DMO, dish machine operator. But the average employee with inflation adjusted is over $7,000 per person to replace. 52% of that is in lost productivity cost, because you got the person who's on the way out who doesn't care, right? And you got the new person on the way in that's being trained and making mistakes as they're being trained. How many times have we had to comp something at a table because a new employee has made a mistake? Could be a new kitchen person who's overcooked the broccoli and now it's army green instead of bright green, right? And they batched it out, and so they ruined, like 6 or 8 different portions of broccoli. So now you're having to throw that broccoli out because you don't want to even use it for family meal, because it's just like it's in the middle of the rush, right? So you're losing the food costs on the broccoli. You're having to comp broccoli there. You're having to give away some dessert to make up for the fact that the broccoli wasn't cooked right. All those type of things, those things start adding up. And so what happens is, even if you cut that $7,000 number in half, which is lost productivity, 3,500, and you multiply that out times, like let's say that you have a restaurant with 50 employees, a smaller restaurant with 50 employees, right? You have a 50% turnover rate, but your Burger King that you worked at or the fast food, they have over 100% turnover rate. But let's say that you have 25 people that it's at, or 20 people times $3,000, right? That's $60,000.
Yeah, you're burning money.
$60,000 is 2 things. It's your bonus gone, right? And number 2, there may not be year 2. You may be unemployed and looking for another job because that restaurant has to close because it didn't have enough profit to keep going the next year. And so it's, but Mark's got to go. He's got to go work his shift. So Mark, thanks for being here, buddy. Thanks, Mark. Right. Yep. Žana's a great interview. I'm loving this. So, but you can come back and watch the replay, Mark, if you still heard that, right? And finish it up. We're at minute 39. So just pick it up at like minute 35, 36, something like that, and then watch the rest of it as we wrap this up. But I really want to say thank you for bringing that up, because most people don't really understand the importance and the cost of turnover, right? And it's Go ahead.
But I'm so sorry. But that's exactly where I feel it's imperative that we need training. Training is like one of the biggest things, in my personal opinion, that you can do to succeed if you really have, or if you're really serious about your restaurant or hotel. Because
Hmm.
there's also people out there that are just investors, and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna invest 2, 3 million in, contributing to this hotel, buying some shares or this or the other. And that's great. But like, really just understand, if you do that, just make sure that whoever you invest with really understands the world of hospitality. And that's another thing that is very difficult, where, ZD Hospitality can help, is to, how do we find the right people for our place? Like, think about it. If you yourself, you are not from the hospitality industry, and you are overtaking our restaurant, or you becoming the GM, or you are buying a restaurant or a hotel because it's a great investment for you, or any sorts of anything, but you're not from the industry, how will you really know what questions to ask to create a functionable team?
Hmm.
You don't know. You
Right.
don't know, right? Because and then that's already where it starts, when we hire people because they look great on a piece of paper, on a resume,
Right.
but really they don't know anything about how to really deal with certain things, how to treat people, how to run a team, how to sell wine, or how to product anything. Then how are you able to create something fantastic?
Right.
So
Right.
training is so imperative, because whatever we lay the base on, when I would say come in and I would lay the base down for somebody's team, I always make sure that their managers are firsthand in those trainings, or get separate trainings, because those are going to be the people that maintain the base that we laid when I come in. So every time when you have new people come in, you're going to repeat what me and you just came up with, our concept that we implemented in your place. And then it
Hmm.
can go on and on and on and on, versus you then needing to take out the time and telling your waiter, do this, do that. And then, one manager is saying it this way, the other manager is saying it that way, this waiter is executing it this way, that waiter is executing it that way. And, then you have this whole commotion going on, where versus when we come in, we lay a foundation. We obviously create a fantastic concept that works with whatever business people have. It could be a food truck, it could be a casino, it could be a country club, it could be a restaurant, a hotel, it doesn't matter. And so once that foundation is laid, all you need to do is really make sure that you have good managers on board that wanting to maintain
Hmm.
the implemented material.
Right. Right. Exactly. And getting and keeping people on the same page. And it's funny. It's
Correct.
like, I have said for years, right, that it's really easy to get people on the same page when it comes to your budget and your P&L and those type of things, because the numbers don't lie. It's
Right.
so hard to get everybody on the same page when it comes to like how you treat employees, right? And what, the environment should be, because somebody
Mhm.
may be that old school chef that screams and yells at everybody. And then somebody may like me, may be that like new, like I want to create an environment where people feel safe and people are
Right.
highly trained and we're going to give the best dining experience ever, those type of
Right.
things. And right, getting, because what happens is, a lot of times, unless you're starting a new location, doing a new store opening, whether you come in as a chef or whether you come in as a assistant manager or the GM, no matter what position you come into, a management position, right? It's just like there's a new person coming into an existing culture there.
Agreed.
So it's really, and there's so many subtleties to that are not in the corporate training documents, or not in, or not in whatever, even if it's a one restaurant company that has, the training fully detailed, none of that stuff is really, detailed. And there's so many things about how you can, you know, lead or manage people and those type of things. And so
Totally.
it's so many different things in there. So
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think fundamentally the most important part is,
I'm just, I'm sorry.
you okay?
Yeah, I just choked myself. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. As long as you're good.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not going to pass out. I'm just like,
okay.
I just like,
Uh,
my saliva went down the wrong pipe. It's the joy of being
oh
live,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah.
all people. We're all, it happens. But I think fundamentally it's just really imperative if really owners of restaurants or hotels or any hospitality related business are really taking out the the importance and really understanding the importance of it is important to really create a good team and have a good people that come in and train your team and help you out, even though you think you got it all together because your restaurant is there already since 20 years. Believe me, even you can learn a bunch of things because we are in a different time. We're in 2021. Things are not as anymore how they used to be back in 1990 or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so it's always good to go with the time, and always good to really understand also your guests, your guests evolving too. Everything should evolve all the time. And when you are being stuck on, oh, I don't need that and I can train my team myself and this and that, and then you look at your Yelp reviews. I know Californians are huge on Yelp. You look at your Yelp reviews, for instance, and they suck, or you are coming in your restaurant and people just shape up very quick. You got to feel that there's something wrong with your style of management. Like you got to
Right.
feel that there isn't something really going as how it needs to go. And people really do respond and want to really go the extra mile if they're allowed to use their brains and if they're allowed to evolve on their workplace and if they feel good and safe at their workplace. That's when people strive the most. And that can be implemented in any environment that can be implemented. I mean, I took restaurants and hotels because that's my love. That's my passion. Like, I mean, I've learned this since I'm 14, so
Right.
I took that. But there's so many businesses out there that really need help, that really, really, really need help in just understanding how to lead people, because it's not enough just to give them a paycheck and tell them quickly, give them a 2 week, little training and tell them this is what I want, and then expect them to do the same thing that you're doing because you've been doing it since I don't know how many years.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You got to
No.
really stay there with them and kind of like work with them on the floor. And that's why I like to promote my concept is like, we're not just coming in, giving a seminar and leaving. We will stay with your team for a period of time, acting like temporary managers, working with the team on the floor to really make sure that whatever learned material we just had in our trainings is going to be correctly implemented on the floor now. And
Right.
you cannot only do it by listening and hearing it for the first time. You have to do it to get better at it. You have to practice. And we're going to be there for a little while, walking alongside with you and your team to make sure that everybody's on the same page and to make sure that when you happen to have people in your team that are not beneficial because they're stopping the flow or they are not wanting to evolve or they are not wanting to work as an actual team, we will eliminate people along the process too,
Right.
because it's no point. There is people still out there that are wanting to be in this industry, and we can find them. I'm pretty sure we can find them.
Yeah. Well, there are, your story is so amazing, right? And first of all, I want to say thanks for covering for me while I was over here like hacking up a lung. I don't know what happened, right? So, and you said so many things there. I agree with you so much. It's about we need to make people feel safe, right? And
Yeah.
that's really the message of Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last, right? And building scenarios where cultivating ecosystems. And my restaurant pillars are hire people with great character, train them. So hire, train, and sustain. So hire them, hire people with great character, train them above the expectations of their paycheck, the expectations of the guest, the expectations of ownership, and the expectations of the management team. So train them above all of that stuff, right? Which goes against what the servers, and team really wants, because they want enough just to get by a lot of times. But yeah, you want them to be up here. You want them to know, if it's a restaurant that has a wine list, you want them to know the house, you want them to know the designation, you want them to know the vintage, you want them to know the glass price, and you want them to know the bottle price. And they're like going, I'm letting people just, oh, you want the glass of Chardonnay, right? Okay, Chardonnay. Okay. They're not going, well, would you like the Rombauer Chardonnay, which is you're selling for $29 a glass, right? They don't, right? They're not moving that needle, or you don't want that server, that a bartender is just like, Well, I always like the most expensive of everything, right? You want to like guide people for the best experience based off what they're having, right?
Correct.
If the
But you
Burgundian
see,
Chardonnay pairs better with the seafood appetizer they have,
mm-hmm.
or and that's the middle tier wine versus the top tier Rumbar, right? Which people drink, a bunch of, right? Or the low tier house wine. You want to send them on the right pairing, right? And do those type of things, right? And train to do
that point, Scott, brings me back to, again, understanding who to hire, asking the right questions when you are putting your team together, or you are in need of a bartender, of a mixologist, or of a bar back, or a server, or whatever. Like, you gotta ask the right questions to really already feel out the person. Is that going to be a person that can fundamentally fit in my team? Or are there just order takers?
Right.
I mean, but that's exactly, how can you really do that when you don't have knowledge, like you or me? Or there's a lot of great managers out there. Don't get me wrong. There's fantastic managers out there. Really, really, really fantastic managers are out there. But there's also a lot of not great managers out there and not great leaders. And so, that all of this could be eliminated from the beginning, But for staff wanting to go and do the extra mile, it's a little bit also internally in here, because, fundamentally, people do jobs because they either have to, they need to, or they don't know what else to do. And that's the only place they can get in. And I understand that. But if you're not bringing the ethic and the willingness with you to my floor, then I, as the manager, I, as the owner, really have to ask myself, am I trying to run a mediocre place where I'm getting by and I'm making enough money to pay my rent and I have a little extra cash in my pocket? Or am I trying to be someone or something with my concept out of the box and standing out from the crowd? Because if that's what your goal is, you got to go the other route. You got to give a little more of an effort to, for instance, hire people like us, coaches, that can help out for a small period of time. But then you will benefit from that. Or are you saying, well, all of that, I'm good, I'm paying my rent and it's fine. I've done it 30 years. It's okay. Listen, go live life the way you would like it to be for you. I'm not here to say this is correct or that is correct. I'm here to offer a service. Either you on board with that or you're not, and I'm fine either way. I think the world of hospitality needs a little extra help.
I agree. And that was the reason that I started the Restaurant General Manager podcast, and started, the Restaurant GM Coach, right? And and I'm transitioning that over to a different website now. So the Restaurant GM Coach, or the gmcoach.com, is expired, and I'm going to build a new website for that, down the road. So all that stuff is just kind of, in limbo right now, because I've been doing the modern longevitarian, and I initially called this show It's My Friday, because you've all heard through the career, through your career, today's my Friday. It's my Friday. Right. And so I actually have t-shirts, that say It's My Friday. And I have the website, itsmyfriday.life, and so I may do something with that too. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this as I'm, as going into, obviously into the Q2 of, 2021 and transition out of this, but and trying to fit all these pieces together. But I agree, right? The reason I started this is because I feel like, we don't teach leadership in our industry. We teach management, right? And you manage things, but you have to lead people. Like, you can manage that New York strip. You can order, the cases, all the New York strips you need. You can make sure this got the proper temperature when you receive it. You can do the FIFO as it comes in. You put it in, and you can, trim them and cut them and butcher your steaks, or they may be prepackaged. Either way, put them on the line. Somebody orders it medium rare. You're going to season it the way your restaurant seasons it, or however they want it. You're going to cook it to medium rare in your 1800 degree broiler, or however you cook steaks, right? It's going to be then put on the plate. It's going to rest for however long you rest it. Going to get delivered from the left, right? It's going to make sure pre-marked with a steak knife, all these different things, right? They want to box it up, take it home, all those things. That's all management. You can't lead that New York strip to A, show up in your refrigerator and jump itself onto the grill, right? And cook itself to medium rare, jump on the plate, cover with butter, do all those different things, right? You have to manage things, but you lead people, right? And you can inspire people to actually do the right things that are best for not only for them,
Totally.
but for the group, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And for themselves too. This is why
Right.
I'm so big on also, helping staff members really how to become great salespeople on the floor. Because listen, I understand we all do it for the money. Let's just keep it really real here.
Yep. We do it for the money, right?
We all go and do things because we have families, we have lives, we have, expenses, we have all those things, right? But this is where I want to help you to become a great salesperson on the floor so that you understand how to really make money, more tips for you, more revenue by not being this pushy waiter, but just through understanding concepts that I'm teaching you of how to go about it. So you will not be labeled as, oh my God, he just picked this most expensive thing. He just told us about the most expensive red wine, most expensive champagne, most expensive meal on the menu. No, listen, it's not about the most expensive thing. It's about how you engage with your guests. It's about how you are building that quick 30-second,
rapport
relationship. Yeah, that first impression relationship that you only have literally less than 30 seconds time when you step to the table. That's how you're going to make your money. And believe me, you don't have to have 20 tables. You don't.
No.
You don't. 5 tables. If you work your 5 tables on regular basis and you really work and give proper elite guest service, trust me, you will make money.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
so that's really the emphasis, what my whole company is really about. Like, I want to help staff members to really create more revenue for themselves, but fundamentally they're also creating more revenue for the owner that they work with right? Because if they're going to make more tips on the check because the check is higher, the whole revenue is going to be higher for the owner. So it's a win-win for everybody. But along that, part 2 is really, how do you treat your team? Because if you are treating your team with respect and care, they will deliver for you. They will. But if you're just treating them like a number and you're not really paying attention to them and you're expecting these unrealistic things of them and you're just dismissing the things that they bring and achieve, then you're going to get mediocre in return.
Right. Exactly. So I don't want to cut that short because that's such an amazing thing, but we're getting up on an hour here and we haven't really talked about ZD hospitality so much and what you do. And so I want to highlight, your hospitality coaching, program that you have. And so tell me, A, where can people find you online? Right. And then B, what services you offer.
So people can find me on my own website, www.zdhospitality.com. They can find me and hopefully follow me because I only have a small following yet on Instagram because I haven't started my business that long ago. I mean, I've been doing what I've been doing since many years for employers that I worked for. But on my own, I'm fairly fresh and new. And so I can always use support by people. My Instagram is ZD Hospitality Coaching, and so is my Facebook, ZD Hospitality Coaching. So they can find me on all those 3 platforms. I'm just a phone call away, just an email away. I'm happy to get together for coffee, for a Zoom meeting, for a little discussion, if you just stuck somewhere, call me. I'm happy to help. Like, for me, this is not necessarily about having to make this client and having to get it's so much more. This whole Corona thing just showed us all that we all really are needing to support each other, and however I can help, I'm happy to help. And what I offer is basically exactly that. I focus myself. I took my knowledge, I took my experiences from traveling, living in 6 different countries, speaking 4 languages. I took all of that and I focused on training your staff front of the house, back of the house. I teach them how to give elite guest service. I teach them how to operate on the floor. I create a healthy, functioning work cycle for you and your entire team. I take a look at everything. I take a look at your host. I take a look at your kitchen. I take a look at your papers. I take a look at your revenue. I take a look at how your staff is moving on the floor. And I'll just really create something where everybody understands that we all work together in this. And that's basically what I focus on.
That's awesome. That's absolutely
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And there's so many things that we have, in common, and I, which is refreshing, right? Because you
Right.
makes me feel like I'm on the right path, right? All these years,
Yeah.
and then those type of things. We had another comment come in from, actually, he's from Germany, Chef Mueller. He was on
Oh,
the show as well, right? And he,
nice.
yes, being in this industry. And by the way, there was one of the most watched and listened to shows of all of my shows with Chef Mueller's. And so
Oh, wow.
he started with Marriott when I think they had like 69 properties. I mean, so he's been around a bit, right?
Wow.
And so many people chimed in, like, so many people that he worked with respect him. So, but yes, being in
Awesome.
this industry for so many years, I definitely believe it's time for an overhaul in a service-driven environment. Many times you need a different pair of eyes to get a fresh start to stay competitive and productive. Remember, it's the way to thank you to you, customer, right?
Yes, exactly. Ja. Chef Müller, vielen Dank für das Comment. Das war toll. Danke. Hopefully you heard that.
Yeah, he'll get it at some point. Chef is such a big fan of the show. And again, we met on LinkedIn. And you're on LinkedIn under Žana Usher,
Mhm.
right? As
Yes,
well, right?
I'm on LinkedIn too. Yeah, I forgot to say that. Yes, I
Right,
am.
right.
Mhm.
I just want to, well, I'm here to
Mhm.
help, right? I'm here to help make sure we
Yes.
get that, right?
Yeah.
But no, you're right. We're at this, I think we're at a couple places with the hospitality industry. I think we're at a renaissance of it, really, in a way,
Mhm.
because we're getting back to a lot of chef driven type things, right? It's getting back to the small restaurants, even though big
Right.
brands do really well. There's also a lot of small independent restaurants that are doing extremely well too.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then there's almost like we're at this, so we're at a renaissance, but also like this revolution or evolving of what a restaurant is. And we're not hearing so much as like, you need to go get a real job. I mean, people are seeing this, and it's probably because the Food Network's been around long enough,
Sure.
all that stuff, right, are coming in. And there's been, enough of the people who think that they go to chef school, that they're going to end up being like on Food Network, and realizing, no, I don't need one of these in an hour. I need to make like
No.
50 of these in an hour. Right.
Right.
And that, learning basic knife skills and getting a job in a restaurant is just the beginning. That like gets you in the
Right.
door. And there's so
Right.
many other things that have to come into play. I mean, like, when I
Mhm.
started in the industry, like in the 90s, I mean, I'm 49 years old, right? So, I mean, I started, I was 20, so 20, 28 years ago, in May is when I started in the business. And there was no such thing as emotional intelligence and hiring for emotional intelligence. And it was like, go
Right.
follow Susie for a couple of days and then we'll give you a section, right? It's just like,
Right.
it was that
Yeah.
type of thing, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of, restaurants that really, like, it was just like, it was a wild, wild west in a lot of ways, and a lot of
Yeah.
restaurants that I worked in the beginning. And that was great in a lot of ways, because you were able to like start putting these pieces together, right? But we didn't talk about
Sure.
like the cost of
Sure.
turnover and
Right.
and those type of
Right.
things. I'm sure that large corporations like Hilton and Marriott and
Yeah.
all those had those type of things, and that
Yeah.
was when I worked for the Hilton, was like this. It changed the trajectory of my whole career, because I was then like, okay, this is behavioral based interviewing, and this is this, and this is how the HR handles this, and this is
Mhm.
sort of putting a lot of pieces
Mhm.
together. But it
Mhm.
took all those lessons I learned from the Wild Wild West and started putting them in this, and I started making this
Totally
systematic
agree.
approach to
Yeah.
things, right? Yep,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why, just because you have a smaller restaurant does not mean that you cannot give five-star elite guest service. You can. You don't
Right.
have to have white tablecloth to call yourself, not to call yourself fine dining, but to give fine dining service. You
Yep.
can call yourself that. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. You can have, like nice, just this rustic furniture out there, and your servers can give fantastic service.
Right.
You don't have to have white tablecloth and bubbly champagne and high-end caviar and all of that to call yourself or your service fine dining service. No, you
Right.
don't. You can teach that your people, you know?
Absolutely. And,
Mhm.
I was talking to Dale Augenstein, which is the owner of the very first restaurant company I worked for, starting as a dishwasher. I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking about that exactly because Steamers on Hilton Head Island is a casual seafood restaurant. It's got a hole in the middle of the table with a galvanized bucket where you put your shells in from your
Right.
shellfish. So you're
Right.
literally like throwing that in there. But we were talking, I was like, what if your servers turned the handle of the coffee cup to 4 o'clock, right? Like they do in a fine dining restaurant. What if they
Hmm.
serve from the left with the protein in the right spot at
Hmm.
6 p.m., right? And what if
Hmm.
they serve, the drinks on the right side with the right hand and remove with the right?
Hmm.
And so, because what happens is you have to think,
Hmm.
people go to these resorts, these high-end resorts. They go to a
Right.
fine dining restaurant and get that level of service. But what if you had this behind-the-scenes structure that people were taught those
Exactly.
things, right? And not that we're like going to be pretentious about it, but they're
Right.
doing all the right things in the right way,
Correct,
right?
because it's
You, you
service
know,
etiquette. It's service
yes.
etiquette that everybody needs to know how it works. It's just like, when you being served in some places here an espresso,
Hmm.
okay? I
Yep.
get a big coffee spoon.
Right.
No, you have espresso spoons, and you don't serve an espresso necessarily with sugar. Like there's little details like that that can be implemented in your environment or in your beautiful atmosphere because it's really difficult to have a beautiful atmosphere in this fancy schmancy restaurant or this beautiful view and then the servers just don't deliver. Not
Right.
because they don't want to, but because they don't have the knowledge and nobody takes out the time to really train them in the proper
Right.
way, you
Right.
know?
But there's also, you have to think, there's a level of, a kid who grew up working in casual restaurants.
Right.
They don't know those steps of service that we just explained, right?
Agreed.
They just don't know those, right?
Agreed.
And so what happens is that, and they may not think they need them, but they don't understand. And I call this subconscious service, right? Is where it's like all these things are happening subconsciously in the
Mm.
background. Like if like a server assistant or somebody's slamming cabinet doors or clanging glasses together, I'm like,
Right.
you're disrupting that guest experience for most of the people in the dining room that are close to you, this circumference, because the noises are too loud, the doors slamming and all that type of stuff. And so
Hmm.
I so much have like taught this, like, and someone I worked with at Del Frisco's, it was Katie, and she said, we talked about this. She called it service as a feeling, right? And I
Hmm.
called it subconscious service. And so it was really this
Hmm.
thing, right? So it's just this
Yeah.
different level, right? And there's a difference
Yeah.
between, and I think this is where you come in. And I was going to ask you this question, and I didn't, but it was like, um, service, the difference between service and hospitality, right? Those two things. All right. Chef's got a response
Thank
for you.
you.
You're going to have to read this in German because that's not me, right? You,
I can't, it's too far away and I'm
oh,
feeling like that my cell phone might die. So I have to
oh,
somehow
got it.
very quickly figure out how I'm going to plug you up in this wall
Well,
that
we'll
is
just
so
we'll just
far
wrap it
away
up.
from me.
We'll just wrap it up. We'll just wrap it up then. Chef did reply to you in German, so you
Oh,
have to
he
go back and
did.
read it. And
I will.
you can go to the LinkedIn, the link that I sent you, and you can go back and reply to him.
Thanks.
Right.
Yes,
Yep. Yep.
thank you for the response, Chef. I'll
Yep.
go and check. Ich guck's mir gleich an.
Awesome. Well, your phone's going to die, and so
Yes,
we'll wrap it up. So
thank you
thank you.
so much.
Yes, thank you. It's been a great conversation, and I hope that we could planted some seeds out there with people in the hospitality industry about
Totally.
how they can do that. And you know what? If you're looking for someone to come in and train your team and actually be there with them, right, through the process, call Jana, right?
Yes,
Call her, and she'll hook you
call
up.
me.
And yep, and she'll have a cup of coffee, whether it's virtual or in person, right? And then she'd
Done.
be willing to work with you. So.
Yes. Scott, this was such a pleasure. I really appreciate you. I very much appreciate what you do for everybody out there. Keep going. Please don't stop.
I
And
won't.
thank you for all the amazing comments, everybody that kind of like tuned in and helped out with great questions. Thanks for checking me out. I appreciate this. Thanks for all the support. And I'm so honored that I have met you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Well, we're going to wrap up episode 98 right
Okay.
here of today is like, it's my Friday hospitality edition, even though it's a Tuesday. I'm going to say thank you for watching the
Thank you.
show. I'm going to say thank you for, I want people to do this. I want people to find who they are. Žana did. 14 years old. She found who she is and just be you, right? Mark Twain
Yes.
said this.
Yes.
The two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you figure out why, right?
Done.
So
Life purpose.
find yourself and do you. Thanks for watching. My name's Scott
Thank you.
Stanfield. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey.